Alright guys, what is going on? My name is Tubby Emu, covering John Laurinaitis taking on John Cena. Finally ready to make my prediction. If you guys have a prediction, you guys can leave it in the comment section below. When the pay-per-view is done, I'll make sure to signal who won the match. This one is kind of making the pay-per-view very confusing. Normally the WWE is pretty cut and dry on the pay-per-view on who's going to win, and there's really no rhyme or reason why they win or lose. If you look at Randy Orton versus Kane, obviously one of them was going to win and that was going to be it. This match basically sets the tone for everything else in the WWE, and we touched on this on the podcast as well, that if Johnny Ace wins and his reign of terror continues, whether it be from the interference of a returning superstar, Batista, Brock Lesnar, Big Show, whoever, everybody's throwing out these names that they're going to return because they're not a superstar, and they don't have to worry about getting fired. Nobody's really brought up the possibility and, thinking, what happens if Johnny Ace stays or Johnny Ace gets fired. Regardless if Chris Jericho was supposed to be the one challenging for the title, regardless if it was Justin Long who messed up the Chris Jericho match and allowed Daniel Bryan to actually become the #1 contender, because it doesn't seem like we've gotten too much storyline into this feud that, what's going to happen? If Johnny Ace stays in charge, obviously CM Punk just embarrassed him on Friday Night SmackDown. He's going to have a grudge against him and probably start putting him in horrible matches against like Lord Tenzai. That match was possibly rumored about, and he could literally make CM Punk's Night of Living Hell. And that could effectively bury Daniel Bryan. But if you go in and you let John Laurinaitis lose, that could basically free up CM Punk from having to worry about facing a bunch of guys. We could get Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk a little longer. You don't have to worry. Maybe Big Show gets rehired the next night. There's so many different things that could potentially happen that it makes it a little bit hard to predict, because you're wondering, okay, logic says WWE, somebody's going to interfere because the way they worded it. When Eve brought out that piece of paper and it says if any superstar interferes on John Laurinaitis' behalf, he will be fired. That sucks. What does that mean? Does that mean, somebody's going to make a return? Quite possibly. Batista started rumors swirling around when he posted a photo of his head going back to shaved like it was in the WWE. He lost a lot of weight. He's been training for MMA, and I don't necessarily know if, he's coming back. I would, just like I said on the podcast with Havoc, we were talking about it, I'd probably mark the fuck out. Even though I never really liked Batista, seeing like big name guys like that come back, this is the pay-per-view after it. He retired because John Cena, he quit, so to speak. When John Cena ate him on the car when he said, "I quit." And he basically left the WWE. And so Havoc brought up an interesting point about this could potentially set up, some sort of feud. He finally returns to cost John Cena the victory after 2 years, and there could be a John Cena versus Batista feud, because if you look at it, there really is nobody for John Cena to feud with. Now that Brock Lesnar is off TV for a while, who is John Cena going to feud with? Are we going to get another CM Punk versus John Cena feud at Money in the Bank? Maybe we get a rematch in 2 months. Who knows? But that's always a very interesting thing, and I guess I didn't really see that point of view when people said Batista's returning. I initially just blew it off and was like, no, Batista's not going to return. It doesn't make any sense. It'll probably be Big Show or Brock Lesnar, because Lesnar, quote-unquote, quit. And he's not a superstar, and he won't have to worry about getting fired. And there's another possibility I'm going to bring up in a video later, but I just want to quickly mention it here, is, does anybody think that Johnny Ace gets fired and then Paul Heyman, because of his legal troubles, gets appointed the Raw GM? I'm making that prediction now. I'm just going to go on a limb and say that probably is going to happen. Anyway, straight up match. If these two actually faced each other, come on. If John Cena can be Brock Lesnar, of course he's going to be John Laurinaitis. There's going to be some interference, most likely. Somebody's going to get involved and try to help John Laurinaitis. And, knowing WWE and how bad Johnny Ace is getting, for them to just write him off TV and no longer make him a GM, I think would be a bad move at this point. As much as I hate him, the crowd is starting to really hate him. They love to hate him because how bad he is. just to take him off and fire him wouldn't really make sense. Maybe if they appoint Teddy again, or Eve, or Paul Heyman, or whoever it is, and then he basically becomes the errand boy just like he made Teddy, I think that would be cool. But you can't just get rid of John Laurinaitis. He's pretty much over right now with the fans legitimately hating him. And a lot of people complain, you know, well, look at Teddy Long. All he did was ever make tag team matches. Look what John Laurinaitis has done. Even though he's not the one that's booking it, we've had tag team matches. We've had Randy Orton and Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio and Chris Jericho. We've had tons of tag team matches that weren't actually tag teams. And, you know, the obvious thing would say the WWE is going to let John Laurinaitis win by interference. I'm going to go out on a limb and say John Cena finds some way to win. You know, they're probably going to let him lose. But nobody thought he was going to be Brock Lesnar, and he pulled it out of the hat. So I'm going to say John Cena wins, Johnny Ace gets fired, and I'm going to make the crazy, wild prediction that to settle their legal disputes, Paul Heyman demands to be the Raw GM and the SmackDown GM, and then we finally get Paul Heyman back in a Power of Control after what happened with him and Bischoff in 2004 at the draft. So, my name is Tubby, guys. Leave your predictions in the comment section below. Let me know who you think is going to win this match, how you think it's going to win, and if Johnny Ace does in fact get fired and that is your prediction, who is going to be the new GM of Raw and SmackDown? Because it looks like we're kind of doing super shows now and we're not really having brands, so one GM would be perfectly fine between both shows, guys. My name is Tubby. Thank you very much for watching. Do me a favor, pound that like button if you guys can. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow at the Sunday Over the Limit pay-per-view.